Well, hello everyone. Good evening out there in Vaudacity land. Welcome to the Your Creative Journey podcast. It's a little bit of a different version this evening. I'm still Paul Carganilla. It looks like Kevin Gregg is in the thread here. If you're just joining us for the first time tonight, thank you for being here. Happy birthday to the Vaudacity network. We're celebrating all week long with a different show, at least one show every night here on the network. And it looks like I'm seeing a lot of familiar names in here. We got Krista, Naomi, Meryl, Diana, Emily, Joanne, Naomi. I just said Mel, Christina. If I haven't said yet, hello and welcome thank you for being here. If it's your first time watching the show tonight, we've got a podcast going on here that was supposed to be just an audio podcast, just 5 or 6 episodes long, but it turned into something pretty special. And with the Vaudacity network happening, hi Dari, Kevin Gregg and I decided to take this audio podcast that we had started and start streaming when we record it with our guests. We had some really cool guests lined up, and see if anyone would come watch us record it live online. So the audio podcast comes out every Monday, wherever you can find podcasts. The official website is the Your Creative Journey, www.yourcreativejourney.com, or you can find it by going to kevingregg.com. That's Greg with 3 G's, G-E-G-R-E-G-G. And Kevin Gregg, my partner in crime, partner in creative exploration. We just love getting together so much that now we've done 40 episodes. Last week was our 40th episode of the podcast that was only supposed to last 5 or 6. So we understand that it's hard to consistently get together every Tuesday night, gather, watch the show, or it's hard to download every episode every week and listen to the show. So what we did this week to celebrate Vaudacity's birthday week, I put together some of my favorite moments from the first 40 episodes of the show. We're going to hear stories, inspirational stories, almost supernatural stories. We're going to hear some great advice from some very wise individuals who have spent years and years and years in this industry. And we're going to hear a funny true story about a pretty famous person. It's all together in one package here for you. If you've never listened to the podcast before, or if you've only tuned in a few times and only been able to listen to a few minutes, I hope you'll stick around for the entirety of this episode. I've got an hour-long program for you. But these are the kinds of conversations that we have week to week on the show. And while this is kind of a highlight reel, if you will, of some of my favorite moments and some of my favorite stories, I think that all throughout each episode, anybody out there can find something inspirational, can find something to help motivate you and get you through your creative journey. And that's what we set out to do. And I've said so many times on the podcast, if this podcast inspires one person to break through a creative barrier or to create something that may not have been made if they weren't listening to the show, then I'm going to feel like this is all worth it, at least for me. And I appreciate y'all being here. There's Melissa Catano, everyone who's still joining, and Angelica. So who do we got? I didn't write it down, so by memory, we're going to see a program here of conversations with voice actor James Arnold Taylor, seasoned actress in the industry Judy Kane. We've got professional drummer and entrepreneur Justin Armand mixed in here, actor from Nashville Eric Close, another amazing seasoned actress Rebecca Staub, and I think we closed it out with actor R.C. Ormond. And while so many of these guests that are on the reel here tonight are actors or in the film industry, this is a podcast that is designed for anyone, no matter what you do. If you're an entrepreneur, if you work in any sort of business that isn't show business, we think that you'll find something within the show that will make it worth listening to on a long drive or watching on a lazy Tuesday night. So with that, I invite you to sit back, relax. I'll see you on the other end of it. Ladies and gentlemen, here are some of my favorite moments from the first 40 episodes of the Your Creative Journey podcast. Let me know if you can't hear it. I was having audio issues on Saturday night with Zoom, so hopefully it is not continuing. I reset my computer, but let me know in the chat if you can hear it. Here y'all go. I hope you enjoy.
Again, it's one of those things where I have to say to people, if you really have a passion for it, pursue it. I mean, because, I didn't get any special treatment or anything. I just went out there and did it. And I found that most people that do, it's the same thing. They took to it because they weren't scared.
Yes.
And you can't be afraid to look silly. And you have to be able, you do have to have, some ability to morph your voice around, but not like what I do. There's very few people in Hollywood, even in the voiceover community, that do multiple voices like that. Most people do. And I always tell people, you could have a very successful career as a voice actor with one voice.
Right.
And people forget that. But, you could do commercial work, you could do narration work, you could do promo work and have just one voice that makes you a great living. And then you can do things with it, variations of it, add a little texture to it, bring it up a little higher, give it an accent, whatever. But that ability to do characters and doubling people, like I've spent a lot of my career doubling celebrities. So if Christopher Walken isn't able to do his voice, I come in and do it. It's crazy. Or Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon. So I'm Hiccup a lot of times when Jay isn't. Or like I say, Michael J. Fox or David Spade. Yeah, and you are, and bye-bye. So I come in and fill in for them. Johnny Depp. I've been Captain Jack Sparrow a lot of times. And, it's a fun way to make a living, but it's also, it's something that requires a lot of skill in it too. I'm not saying, I have so much skill, but the people that I work with, I'm amazed at the abilities they have.
Yes.
Voiceover is really a neat job. It's a wonderful job. And Paul was asking about, like the story of my life in the beginning. So I was raised with a single mom. For the most part, my folks were divorced when I was about a month old, and I started life living in a car, and then we moved to a 1-bedroom apartment, and had an older brother and sister, and product of divorce and all of that, and a lot of violence, a lot of bad stuff I got to see in my life, and always never really had a connection with my dad. Years later, I went it's been therapy for years. I highly recommend people get talk therapy. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Amen.
And trying to say, why do I have no relationship with my father? And the crazy thing is I lost my voice to toxic mold about 15 years ago. And we had bought a house because we were about to adopt our daughter. And we were adopting her from China, and we bought this new house. It was going to be great and all of that. And it was a money pit. It made the Tom Hanks, Shelley Long movie look like nothing. It was a absolute money pit. Everything that could go wrong. And we had black toxic mold growing in the walls that I discovered. And I breathed it in, got in my bloodstream. I lost my voice. It was at the height of my career. And for about 3 months, I was pretty much this. And
oh my gosh.
I really had to ask God, what's up?
Yeah.
And I remember the day I lost my voice, and the doctor told me, it was February 13th, 2005. And he said, you got to stop talking. And I was like, please don't let this be the worst day of my life. Right. God, please. And 6 months later, we got the paperwork for our daughter and saying they've placed us with a child. And we got her paperwork, and I looked at her birthday, and it was February 13th, 2005.
Get out of here.
The world changed, and he made it the best day of my life, not the worst day of my life. And then, from there, I changed my life, my diet, everything in my life shifted. But it got me questioning why I had always had a bad relationship with my father. And all these things link into each other. And turns out at 42, I realized and found out that the person I thought was my father my whole life was not my father. The reason why he didn't like me was because he didn't think I was his, and he finally admitted it to my therapist. And I found this out at 42, and we did a DNA test, and found out that he was not my father. And so I found out that my real father actually did exactly what I do for a living. He was about 5'4", as I am, blonde hair, blue eyes, and worked in radio and hosted TV shows in the 50s and 60s, and did exactly what I do. And
Wow.
So I didn't know that all this was built into me. You
Wow.
know? So
Full body. I just got full body chills like 3 times during that story.
here's the crazy part of it also, Paul, is that the day I got the DNA results was my daughter's adoption day. So we already had a connection of me losing my voice and her birthday. So we got her on October 31st, Halloween. That was the day. We were in China. We went to China. We got her. They don't celebrate Halloween there. So, you know, it's just another day. And we got our daughter there. So every year we celebrate Halloween as adoption day at our house. And we were having a little celebration that day. And I checked my phone because Fox was going to need me to do some promos. And there was the results for the DNA test. And I looked at them and it said 99.99% chance that, you know, Leroy Taylor is not the father of James Arnold Taylor.
Wow.
And my life changed. And the weird thing was, this is my daughter and I were connected. And my daughter will never know her birth parents because she's from China. And that's, you know, she was found in a marketplace at 10 days old, abandoned. Wow. And her and I have this connection now to where I never met my father. He passed away many years ago because he was twice the age of my mom. Wow. And I met him once when I was 7. I didn't know that I was meeting him because I didn't know he was my father. Yeah. I met him once. Yeah, it's one of those crazy things. So her and I have this connection now on adoption day is the day I learned who my real father was. And I lost my voice on the day she was born. And it's a weird connection, but
it's, I will tell you, James, I'm so grateful that you shared these stories here, because it is an example of the moments that we are going through in our life, right? Yeah. The moments that seem like the worst, that it's the end of the line, that everything is turning upside down, that you have no idea what God has in store for you, what beautiful thing he can make out of this, right? And I've had these moments, man. I have had these moments in my life. I've had these moments of surviving cancer when I was 23 years old and thinking just like, what am I supposed to do? And then really changing my life and really getting closer with my relationship with God. I remember the night that we had our son diagnosed with autism, you know, at 3.5, and holding him and thinking, what's going to happen with my life? And the beauty and the joy that has come out of that, and the soothing mom that he's been in our life. Yeah. And there's times where I go, I don't know if I'd want it any other way, right?
Yes. Like, out of all of your experience in teaching and in working, has there been some piece of advice or something that you're always telling either students or people who just know you and ask you for advice if they want to break into the industry or if they want to find success early on? Is there something that you find yourself saying multiple times?
Well, one, you have to be trained. You have to study. I think it's my biggest pet peeve is that people think, well, I took a class. Okay. I don't know. I know I can't take a run and run a marathon. So
that's a great analogy.
You know, I think the beauty of acting is that we make it look so easy. You know, really good actors make it look easy. Yeah. And it's not. It's easy. It takes, I was telling Kevin before about your daughter, you know, it takes a certain kind of person. You just have to be a certain kind of person. One, you have to be fearless. You have to be inquisitive. You have to be vulnerable yet tough. You know, you have to have these certain qualities, and then you have to want it. You have to want it, because if you don't want it, who's going to go through what you have to go through to get it? You know, so, you know, make sure you want it. And it's not a part-time job. It's not that. And I just think you have to want it and be passionate about it and be patient and love it and study and, you know, be grateful for every single thing. I always tell actors, take every job.
Mm.
Take every job you can, because you don't know who you're going to see on this thing or what it's going to, how many times have you heard, and how many times has it happened to me where, I'll take this little thing and it turns into a job for 3 years. They have you back and they have you back, and you're now all of a sudden you're, in 8 episodes of a series. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I mean, that's what happened with Mad Men.
Yeah.
What happened with The Odd Couple, The Fosters, many, many shows, just a little part to begin, and then it just develops. And if you turn it down, I don't know. I love working.
Yeah.
No, I love working on a show, a set. I love being on a set. So I love being on camera.
And you've been, since you pretty much, I mean, since you started, it's like you've been constantly working. So if there was something, I'm going to steal this from Kevin now, that you could tell 20-year-old Judy Kane from this standpoint, what would that be?
Oh boy. Wow. What would I tell 20-year-old Judy?
Get a better car. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's a marathon. I think, there was definitely a part of me when I was younger. I just really had no clue I mean, I think I was good. I got some really great opportunities. Um, what would I tell her?
Go with your gut. That's usually what I say in this situation.
Just
It's like the
enjoy
first thing.
ride.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride, because there's really, I mean, just like in life, there's really no finish line.
Mm.
It's not the destination.
It's just the journey. It really is.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Can you think of a better way to end that, Paul? I can't.
Oh, I didn't even try to do that, but that works.
Well, I do have to apologize because I am kind of a terrible storyteller. I just don't get into the details. My wife always is. I drive her crazy because when I try to recall something to her, she's just like, "Really? That's all you have? That's all you have for me?" But so I have a buddy that came down to see me at my warehouse today because we're potentially talking about a business deal. I'm starting a new company, and he's kind of at a point where he's looking to invest in something new. He's a successful entrepreneur, but he's kind of bored of hanging out on coasts, in third world countries. He actually wants to be productive and do something, which is kind of a strange problem to have. But
Sure.
any when you're ever stuck in a situation of not being productive, that can tear you to shreds.
Sure.
So he came to meet with me. Well, I don't know him that well. In fact, the last time I talked to him, he was running for city council, and I built his site, and we were getting all this publicity for him. And he's just a really cool dude and a successful entrepreneur. But we're not like close. Like, we know each other, we care about each other. We're in the same tribe of beliefs, and we just always have each other's back. But it's more like little Facebook love emojis. That's our
Right.
our relationship.
Yeah.
Well, he came down for a business meeting to speak about the prospect of partnering in this new thing that I'm creating. And we were at lunch, and typically it's like, I mean, he was writing notes and he's taking business notes, and we're trying to create like a plan and overview, and he wanted my vision and kind of to understand the trajectory. And we're just interviewing each other, basically getting a feel for each other. And we're in a nice restaurant. It's a business meeting. And all of a sudden he trails off, like diverges from the conversation and trails off into this experience that he had, this really powerful experience that he had in his life, where it was a moment that he was using, let's just say, entheogens or a plant medicine, and I
Sure.
won't get into that.
Yeah, you can if you want to. It's not, don't worry. It's not going to melt anybody's eyeballs, right?
Yeah. So he was basically describing a DMT experience.
Sure.
And, if you're interested in DMT, people are using it as like this gateway to this to another dimension and a way to kind of understand or place it in the universe. And it's used it's used more, it's not a recreational drug whatsoever. It's not a
Right.
fun drug. It's not a drug that you would ever want to do like partying or in a bad state. It's kind of like a shamanic experience. And
Right.
just read about it. And what's weird and pretty incredible, similar to near-death experiences that have been clinically proven, actually evaluated and put under the scrutiny of the scientific method to understand the near-death experience, which I actually didn't know that these experiences are actually clinically evaluated. And when I was going through the loss of my mom and just kind of really having a hard time with that, because being kind of lost in my own spirituality and understanding of consciousness, I sort of ebb and flow, being a materialist and an atheist, and then going back to, a connection with a universal consciousness, to this potential relationship with Jesus, but not in the Christian sense. And so I'm kind of bouncing all around, and I get stuck in my own head. And in any case, since the loss of my mom, I've been having, it was an unexpected death. It was that her death was a mystery. Nobody can explain what happened. Boy. She was in my house one moment, and then she left just to go get ready for the day. And then the next day, my wife found her in the bathtub, and a lot of people don't want to talk about those things, but there's no shame the truth. It's what happened. And
so, but it wasn't. But it wasn't like they don't know if it was like an aneurysm or anything like that. They're not sure what happened with your mom.
They don't know. One of her doctors called me actually crying, like she connected with him so deeply. It's just how my mom was, and he said it could have been a series of things, but in any case, they could never get to the bottom of it. But so I've been just reading everything I could to help me deal with or come to terms with this idea of infinity, and the fact that I'll never in the conceivable universe or have another conscious experience with my mother next to me in this body and on this earth as my mother, the person who loved me more than anybody else on the planet. I'll never have another experience with her again. And the idea of that was just so much that like I would just erupt in tears, and I would have like a crush, like this idea of just my soul being crushed, and it turned into anger and all those things that people deal with grief. But this strange thing that's been happening to me lately has been just this like contemplation of where she is now. Is she in this state of love and benevolence and oneness, where she doesn't have to feel disconnected anymore? Is she unexistent? Is there nothing after this? And if there is nothing after this, then why am I feeling pain when I know that I will join her in that nothingness? Or is there this heaven where she retains some level of consciousness, and I will as well, and then we will actually be reunited? And that idea that whether it's a fairy tale or not, I just want to do everything I can to believe it, because it's the only thing that helps me sort of cope with this grief. And but this is like trinary argument that's constantly happening in my head, and it affects my mood, and it just I have this hole in my heart. So I'll get to the good moment. So
that's okay. Listen, I want to just commend you on this right now. I want to commend you for your transparency and your openness with talking about this, right? Because I think that exactly what you're doing right now, number one, is a part of the grieving process, but also it's part of this like exploring stuff and talking about stuff and trying to just figure the stuff out. And you're right. Like we shy away from death or those other things, like we, especially in this society today, right? Like we just want to go, I don't want to talk about, like run away from it. And the fact that you're kind of embracing it, listen, man, this may be a completely different show tonight. Who cares? This is what it's supposed to be. So when you're saying that you're going to get to the good stuff, you are getting to the good stuff. So I commend you on that. Continue, please.
Okay, so so I wanted to lay that foundation where that's kind of like the lens by which I've been viewing reality and experiencing reality lately. And okay, so he's telling me about this DMT experience, and what's incredible is that he's the last person that I would ever think that would have that experience, and that's just me being straight up. Like,
what is it? Is he like wearing like a tie or stuff, or is he just like straight? Is he just like, is it like
he's,
clean
he's
cut?
he's a smart, yes, he's clean cut. He's very intelligent, and to me, he just seems a little like a little bit Texas conservative.
Sure.
Not like conservative politically, but just kind of how
Yeah.
he holds himself. Like he's very apprehensive. I just kind of analytical. I just sized them up, but I sized them up completely wrong. And I don't even know what kind of started this conversation, but he just goes in without any bridge into this subject, telling me about this experience. Well, I'm like so caught up in it because I've read a lot about these experiences, and it's like on the nose with other people's experiences. And it reminded me of this book that I read on near-death experiences, and this idea of coming into contact with these other beings, these interdimensional beings that sort of give you a reality check and are your guides. They're kind of it's not usually God. It's some very large being that is telling you you're not in control, or tells you that you were once better, and it gives you, it's like almost like you're being judged, and then when you come back it can stop you. Like he went from smoking and like smoking and caffeine and hitting his body really hard with cigarettes. And he just, like, when he came back, he stopped. He reformed his life. But the part that hit me was when he said that right before he became conscious of he was conscious as light traveling through the universe, at speeds that were inconceivable to the human mind. And he was that light, and he was all things that existed, including the stars he was, passing through. And suddenly he started then becoming conscious of his body, which threw him off and was kind of nauseating and like the experience of getting off of a roller coaster, you feel, or a boat, you still feel like you're moving, but you're not in actuality moving. And he was disoriented. Right. But in that experience, he had this feeling of that he was all things, and he was a constituent part, and that his identity was infinitely small, and it was almost a forgetting of the infinite love and omnipotent energetic web of experience that was all interconnected from the far reaches of the universe and potentially multiverses. And that he was having an experience, but it was a disconnect, and that he was here to learn. And it sounds almost cliche because lots of people talk like this: the yogis, the Vedas, the spiritual teachers kind of parrot the same thing, and some of it is realized and some of it is just parroted. But when he was expressing this to me, I was having this experience that I wasn't just hearing him telling me a story. It was as if my ancestors, my mom, my unborn baby whom we lost this year, my friend who was my mentor and father figure whom I just lost as well.
Yes.
It was almost as if all of these entities came together.
Wow.
And they were using him to tell me that it is in fact true that we will return to each other. Yeah. And that this idea of losing somebody is an experience we were meant to have. And that in the infiniteness of the universe, there's an infinite level of experiences that we will have, every single one, from extreme happiness and joy and love and lust and arousal and satisfaction and satiation, to loss and suffering and pain and agony. And we will be here to experience the most terrible death we could ever imagine, like burning at the stake, all these the pains, if it's possible to experience it, we will experience it. And all the intelligent life on this in the universe is also having these experiences. And God, or this consciousness, is an aggregation of all of these experiences from a cellular level to a complex systems level. And I was hearing all of this, and really when I cut through all of this, it was like, you will become us again, and we will love each other again. And you only feel this emptiness and this space and this loss because you're sort of like you're a blossom from a bushel of flowers that feels like it's an individual, but in fact has the same root, and that this blossom that was beautiful is now wilted and gone, but you come from the same source, and they, you know, these others that you love have had this time to blossom, and then they wilt and go just like you will, but we all emanate from the same source, the bush. But the where the metaphor breaks down is that the bush is infinite, and the root system is infinite, and we're all connected. And what happened in that moment was that I lost it. Like I was sitting there,
this lunch, right?
Like I started, I felt this energy, and it was more of just wisdom coming to me, and not even words. I did a terrible job recalling.
No,
that,
you did not. You did a magnificent job, an artist's job retelling.
Oh my God.
So I started crying, like tears. It wasn't even like it was a reflexive experience where tears just started pouring out of my eyes, and I started shaking. And he looked at me and he was like totally okay with it. Like as a man, it's very, you know, there's all this conditioning around not showing these type of emotions. And honestly, it's really hard to bear for me, even when I see people break down in a setting where I don't know how to be with them. And I kind of like want to be strength, that masculine strength, like, come on, we're good. Like I got you, you good. But he was just there with me, and he was smiling, and I felt like it wasn't him. And I felt like I needed that. And I felt like this was exactly what I needed in this season of reflection, that it wasn't even about that business meeting. It was like, he just popped in my life randomly, and then wanted to have this meeting randomly, and flew in. This was not even really planned. And I felt like a revelation happened. He was a window to this greater truth. And as soon as I left that meeting, I felt completely detoxed, and I felt like I could finally put down that weight and that pain and that anger and anguish for the first time in 4 or 5 months since all of this happened. And so honestly, it was like a metaphysical high, and I feel like completely recharged and renewed. And it was just a really powerful experience today, and that just happened a few hours ago.
Wow. I would say that's the best thing that happened in your week. Seasons, and there's times where you just have to go, okay, I'm sucking it up. I'm praying through this. I'm bringing my friends into this, but I have to do the work. And
well, this one, like reading has like a lot to do with it. I mean, I'm like really into like genealogy in my family, and I'm so blessed to grown up knowing like the history of my ancestors. And you go, they worked so hard, like the sacrifices that my ancestors made for their future generations, which is me. And so many times when like I'm faced with something, I'm like, look what they did for somebody that they didn't even know, who ended up being me. So sometimes when something is, I have an opportunity, like it's like they made these sacrifices for me. And so one of the things even my husband talks about a lot, when people are like, oh, how are you dealing with COVID? You just go, do you know how people lived through World War II? Like what these soldiers lived through, and like people like boo-hooing about things that we have to deal with. We have to stay home. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? That you really have to educate yourself like to history, whether it's your own personal history or just, your local history or world history, that there's a lot more strength out there than just you yourself. And a lot of people have made sacrifices much greater than yours for much simple results. You go, what they did just to stay alive. And you go, what we have to do to excel. It's a little imbalanced. And so, whenever we think it's hard, you go, it's a lot easier than a lot of people who really worked hard. And so I've just never like been into somebody boo-hooing about, oh, it's too hard. It's like anything that you think is hard, you go, it was so much harder for somebody else. So if you don't want to put in the work, fine, stop. And then let somebody through the gate who's willing to do that work. You know, it's like, get out of my way. If you're going to be lazy, if you're going to be crying, if you're going to complain, it's like, then move, because somebody's going to work harder, and whoever works hardest, you know, deserves what they benefit from. And that doesn't mean that they're, you know, lucky or it was fun. You go, a lot of times you just go, it's hard, but it's not as hard as other people have worked.
Yes.
So just do your best, because a lot of people have worked harder for less. And so doing your best, you know.
Outstanding, Rebecca. Outstanding.
Gosh, guys, I like talking. You make me feel. Thank you.
Well, I mean, you'll have to come back some week.
That's how we do it.
We're like on the same page. It's not like what I'm saying is like really genius. I mean, that's what everybody does. That's like what you guys have done. I mean, everybody does it in their own capacity. So, you know, you've provided this platform that I think makes people realize, you go, how worthwhile we all are, and how blessed we all are, and, you know, the opportunities and what can be accomplished through curiosity and compassion.
Yes.
And, you know.
Well, that's it. I mean, that's and that's the hope and the theme that we have with this podcast, which is why you've been such an awesome guest, because honestly, it's about pulling back the curtain with guests that we have like Rebecca and with other people that come on, is to just get rid of the mysticism or, you know, whatever people think it is, right? We're pulling back the curtain a little bit and showing you the inner workings of how this stuff works. And sometimes it's really simple, bare bones stuff. So
The main thing I wanted to ask you was like that whole thing of knowing the right place and time is one thing, but also then having the courage to just go. You said it perfectly. They're people. Like, go connect with them, and if you have something that you want to talk to them about, that's not just, hi, I'm a huge fan, but like, can you teach me, or like, give me some advice about this? I think that's the best way to approach that sort of a situation, where someone could be a mentor to you, or could help you open doors somewhere down the line. If you have the courage to approach it from a standpoint of not, hey, I'm a stalker, but can you, like, what advice would you give me if I want to achieve this? Like, I think people are a lot more apt to connect with you, and you can build relationships from there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think you just have to be, I mean, you kind of got to gauge the situation, but don't be afraid. And I always tell people, don't, if you have a dream or a goal, and you know that there's someone who can either give you advice or maybe able to help you in some way, you should ask. I think a lot of people are afraid to ask because they are anticipating the no. I mean, actors, we get no's more than we get yeses. So do, I mean, a lot of creative, I mean, people, and you're in an industry where you're depending on someone else to like what you do. And you can get no's for the most random reasons. You could be, your hair is you're the wrong height. I mean, now when you do auditions, and maybe it's always been this way, but it seems like more now, they go, you know, how tall are you? And where are you based? And things like that. And it's because I think they're factoring everything in. Well, if he's 5'11" and she's 5'2", that's not probably going to work, you know? And I know they always make exceptions, but there's a lot of random things that don't have anything to do with your talent that could keep you from, you know, and you just can't be discouraged. You got to keep it going, just keep plugging away. And you know, I mean, even Clint Eastwood told me that night at the Golden Globes that there was a time where he really couldn't get work after Rawhide.
Yep.
And then he ended up doing those Westerns, and
that's right.
That changed his life. You know, he could have said, I don't want to go to Italy. I don't want to go to Italy and do Westerns. But you know, it was more about looking at it and him going, yeah, maybe I'm gonna learn something.
And even that transition that he made in his career, I mean, talk about going and doing the spaghetti Westerns, but then even doing the transition of going, hey, I need to learn how to start directing, you know, going back to play Misty for Me and all this stuff, just like going like, I need to I need to change. I need to adapt. I need to figure out what this is and
Do,
what's
do we
turning
have
to.
time? Do we have time for me to tell you a quick story about Play
Yes,
Misty?
you got all the
Okay.
time in the world. Go for it.
So I asked him a question that night and said, "How did you get started directing? This is what I heard." And he said, "No, that's not the right story." So
Okay.
I said, "Oh, okay," because you hear lore. People people tell you stories. Oh, this is how so and so got their break. Anyway, he had told me that when he went to do the spaghetti westerns, obviously that changed his life, and he came back and he had a 3-picture deal with Universal. I think Lou Wasserman was the guy at the time who was running Universal. And the deal was that Clint had to do 2 of their movies, but part of his deal was that he got to pick the 3rd movie and he got to direct it. And so that was which was very smart because he knew that would open that door for him.
Yes.
And so he had a friend, I don't remember her name, you can look it up on IMDb, who she had written a script and they were friends, and he wanted to direct her script. She wanted him to direct the script because she knew they were young, and they were saying, he's like, I want to direct. And she's like, well, maybe you can direct this movie. And he goes, yeah, I want to direct that movie. And he goes, if I ever can do it, I'll direct your movie. Well, things didn't go the way they had planned. He couldn't get work. And so she came to Clint during that season when he was having a hard time finding work. And she says, I have a chance to sell my script.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you got to go for it. I mean, if you have an opportunity, you want to be a writer, you got to sell your script. And so she sold her script.
Yeah.
He went to Italy, did his movies, became a star, came back, had a 3-picture deal. And when they got to the movie, he had already done the other 2 movies. He goes, okay, now's my chance to direct. They said, okay, well, here's some movies we have for you to direct. And he goes, no, I'm going to send my assistant. And he sent his assistant over to the Universal script room where they shelve all these scripts. Yeah. And he goes, there's this script I'm looking for, go grab it. They brought it off the shelf and brought it back. And it was the script that Universal bought from his friend, which was Play Misty for him.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Oh, I got goosebumps. That's crazy.
Yeah.
For anybody that's listening to this, okay, if you have not seen Play Misty for Me, see that movie. That movie is great and terrifying and scary. And that was his directorial debut.
Yeah,
that was his friend's script.
Yeah, directorial debut. They shot it in Pebble Beach there on 17 Mile Drive. The house is still there. And the thing what I loved about that story, and I was riveted, just like you guys, I had goosebumps because I'm standing there, listening to this from a guy I really admire, that his loyalty to a friend. And one of the things in our business that's unfortunate is you don't always get that loyalty. Yeah. And people will back you and they'll go to bat for you when things are good, but when things are tough, who you really can rely on are the people that they'll stick with you during the tough times. And when you're down and you're not, things aren't like, you're not on the side of a bus.
Yes.
Those people, and they don't make excuses. They just go, I still believe in you. And he did that. And I always was like, that's pretty awesome. And everybody I've ever worked with that has worked with him said, man, he's been so loyal to me. He always, gave me my shot. And so he has a great reputation for that reason.
So here's the interesting transition for us in this. Yeah. And don't worry, Paul, I'm going to have a fun little fact for you at the end of this as well. But here's the deal. I know. Paul's like, what's going to go on? Here's the deal, Eric. This goes back to a conversation that Eric and I were having about a week ago that was off mic on this. We talk about the transitions and the challenges that we run into in our career, and the stuff that you've even talked about tonight. It so applies even right now, not just with you, but with me, but with anybody else that's listening, is that I think, especially in this career, we can get into if you're making your living as a creative and you seem to be in a lane and you seem like things are kind of going along, and then things can jam up, right? Like things don't work out the way that they work out. And all of a sudden we can feel like, like that's it. It's over, or I'm finished. I've had these experiences in my life. And I think that the biggest lesson with this, even listening to Clint Eastwood's stories, but knowing the stuff that I'm sort of navigating in my own life, I know that Paul's navigating, I'm sure that you're navigating too, is realizing just because things are changing in the moment doesn't mean that stuff is over. It means literally that. that we're in the middle of this pivot and change. And I was talking to Eric beforehand, you know, commercials were a big money maker for me, 15 years ago. That was how I was making a lot of my money doing this. And guess what? The marketplace has changed, right? The marketplace changes where it's not all union commercials, or they want different types of people there in the commercials. And I have no control over that. But what that doesn't mean is to go, oh, well, then I'm worthless, or I don't have any value. Instead, it's a moment of going, okay, well, how do I change and pivot and think of another way that I can use my ability, skills, and talent? We're literally talking in this same episode about how 20 years ago, you had to run around to get stuff on VHS tapes and pay an editor $300 or $400 to get your reel together. Where now it's something that you can do. Oh, I'll just do a screen capture and let me just edit it on iMovie, and then boom, I've got my reel, right? Yeah. So like things change and pivot all the time.
Similar to your story.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it PG, but just know it was very rated R.
Okay, got it.
So I'm on a TV show as a cop. And it's, at the time, was a TV show that Mr. Jim Belushi was the star of.
Okay, got it.
And so in the scene, I play a cop, and Belushi plays a lawyer, and his client has a gun, and the cops are breaking down his house, and he's like, I can't help you if you have a gun. Get rid of the gun. Get rid of the gun. We're about to bust down the door. We bust down the door. We come in, guns blazing, and then we have a warrant for that. We have a warrant for that gun. He has a license. It's okay. And then we arrest him, right?
Yeah.
So we do a little rehearsal of the scene, us coming in, blah, 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 blah. And then now I'm showing up on the set just thinking, okay, well, Belushi's the head guy. But at the time, the casting director told me, hey, on set, Belushi's, he's an alpha, so just kind of stay out of his way. I was like, yeah, no problem. You got it. I'm just going to do my stuff, and it's fine. So we do a rehearsal of the scene, and I, hands to the ground. Okay, wait. Okay, I know him. Let him up, right? Because he's a defense attorney. Got the kid. We arrest the kid. So we started the rehearsal. We do the scene. There's grips, lighting area. There's people in the area, but they're lighting it, but we're still doing the rehearsal. We go through it, and he goes, we do the scene. We do a rehearsal. Then Belushi speaks up. The director kind of stays back, and Belushi speaks up. And the director steps in, and then Belushi goes, no, hold on. He goes, okay, you guys ever done a ride-along before? Like a ride-along with real cops? Like, no, never done that. He's okay, you're not going to come in guns blazing, yelling at me, because if I have a gun, I'm just going to shoot you. And I'm like, you know what? I think I've seen enough episode Cops to know that cops yell at people with guns. So I'm pretty sure you're wrong on that. But okay, I'm not going to say anything. It's your show, sure, whatever you want. And I'm like, oh, okay, yes, sir. He goes, okay, cool. So when you come in here, that's good. Check the bathroom. All right, that was good. All right, so just make sure you do that, and don't yell so much, okay? Because you got it. And I go, yes, sir. Copy that. And he goes, whoa, what'd you say? And I go, yeah, I got it. He goes, no, that's not what you said. What'd you say? I said, copy that. He goes, yeah. Why'd you say that? I go, I'm just saying that I understand what you're saying. He goes, yeah, but why'd you say copy that? I go, I'm just agreeing with you. That's all. Just yes, basically. He goes, okay, don't say copy that. That's grip talk. So you can say yes, or it's okay, or I got it. I'm thinking he's joking. Okay. So he goes, so don't say copy that. That's grip talk. Just come in and just say yes, or okay, or yes, sir, or I got it. He's like, understand? So because I think he's joking, I say,
oh, no.
Oh, yes. I say, yes, sir. Copy that. Everybody in the room starts laughing. Everybody's laughing. I'm thinking he's joking. He stops and he throws an F-bomb at me, and he goes, no, you say yeah. Then he gets in my face and he says, you say yes, sir, or okay, or yes, but don't say copy that. You hear me? Now I know he's serious. And I'm like, whoa. In my head, I'm like, whoa, this guy's serious. And I'm like, sure thing. And so he's good. Let's light the scene. So he takes off. We shoot that scene. Cut 12 hours later, we have another scene where we pull them in the house, we put them in the car. And I have a scene with Belushi. 12 hours has gone by. Okay. Belushi comes back to me and goes, hey, you, let's rehearse our scene. And I have dialogue with him. And I'm like, okay. So we're rehearsing the scene, and in the scene, I got kind of a joke to him. I say, hey, Moretti, what do you call a defense lawyer holding a gun? He goes, what? He goes, justifiable homicide. He goes, hilarious. I say, it won't be next time, right? So I say it, and then he goes, yeah, hey, don't set up the punchline like that. Don't set it up. Just say the words. He's directing me. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, so when the scene starts, just say it like this. You got it? Now, remember, this was 12 hours earlier.
You
Remember what happened 12 hours earlier?
Yeah.
Right? So he says, hey, just say it like this, okay? And I go, yeah, copy that. As soon as I say that, it's like, I wish I didn't say that. We're on set. There's about 50 people on set watching this rehearsal. As soon as I say that, I'm kind of like, oh no. I'm about to say, hey, I'm sorry, man. That's just what I say. Nothing. I wasn't, He stops and he screams. He goes, can we get an F-bomb actor over here? This guy is at F-bomb grip. And he yells it. The whole set stops. I look at him, and now at this point, Kevin, I'm now upset.
Yes.
I'm furious.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at him and I'm looking at all these people. Literally, everybody stopped what they were doing to see what was going to happen.
Yep.
I'm looking at all these people, and now I don't care who he is, because I'll respect you until you disrespect me.
That's
you disrespect me, then we have a problem.
Yep.
So I look at him and I get in his face. And I go, are we done with this rehearsal? And he goes, yes. I say, good. I'm going to be over there by my trailer. When we're ready to shoot, please just let me know. Kevin, I walk over to the backside of that trailer and I start punching the trailer. I am livid. It takes a lot to get me there, but he got me there. Okay. So I'm livid. So now I know I got to focus. I got to do the scene with this guy. Right. So we shoot his stuff first. Then we turn around and get my POV. Right. His POV on me. So he starts directing me in the scene. I say the line. He goes, no, don't say it like that. Say it like this. And I'm doing takes. And I'm like, okay. I say it again. He's like, no, don't say it like that. Say it like this. Kevin, he does it 4 or 5 times. He stops me. I stop. I look at the director like, are you going to say it? And the director's like, just do what he says. And I'm like, wow. Now I'm thinking, because he has so much power and clout on set, that he's got to be an executive producer. He's not only the number one, he's also an executive producer, right?
Yes.
So that's why the director's backing down from him.
Yes.
We do it 4 more times, Kevin. Each time, except for the very last one, he stops me and says, say it again. Say it again. To the point to where the kid, the guest star that I'm arresting, he literally says, come on, dude, give the guy a break, right? And I'm just going, I say it the way he wants, and he goes, yes, that was it. Excellent. You guys get that? All right, let's use that one. And then he walks with me and he sticks out his hand. He goes, hey, good job today. And I look at his hand, I look at him in the face, and I just walk away. That was the worst moment I have ever had on set.
Did your scene end up in the show?
Oh yeah, it worked. Oh yeah, it was there. I don't know which take it was, because every time I was livid. And at that point, as a performer, I'm like, I can't believe this guy's treating me this way right now, right? And as a human, it's like, why am I not headbutting this guy right now? How am I not ground and pounding this guy right now to disrespect me like this?
What's your lesson from this? What's the lesson that you
to this day, I don't know, Kevin. I kid you not. To this day, I ask myself,
Belushi, is it?
He's a jerk. To this day, Kevin, I go, why did I let him do that? Why didn't I just walk away? Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I speak up, right? Why didn't I just sit there and take it and stay professional, right? So I don't know what the lesson was. To this day, I don't know why.
Guess what? Surprise! Congratulations! You're now about to learn what this lesson.
Here we go. It's been a while.
Because you know why? I'm going to tell you what the lesson is on this, because I experienced this with another actor as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that lesson was? He gave an example of how you will never behave with other people on a set.
100%.
Or treat other people on set.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are some of my favorite moments from the first 40 episodes of the Your Creative Journey podcast. But I mean, I could have picked. This show, believe it or not, could have been 5 or 6 hours long. Crazy, right? I know so many of you out there are saying, I remember this, I remember that. And that's because you guys are so just loyal being here every Tuesday night. We appreciate you being here with us and meeting these guests and going through these creative journeys together with us. I just realized I have this virtual background on. Sorry, everybody. So random. Oh, here's my favorite one. Because I know Hunter's out there. You like that, Hunter? I know, I've been working out. Yeah. Love you, Hunter. Miss you. Hey, I'm getting my second vax next week. Maybe we can actually hang out sometime. I do have a car. All right, the music you've been hearing tonight is by The Swells, Kevin Gregg's son's Maddie's band, who also does the theme song for the Your Creative Journey podcast. I just don't have that actual song. So, excuse me. Love and appreciate you guys for being here. Hey, if the Kings are out there watching, thank you for dinner. You guys are amazing. Melissa, Christina, Emily, Dari, Kelsey, Anna, Nick. Christy's probably there too. Meryl. Thanks everybody for being here. And Rex from Chile. We're hitting other countries tonight. If Rex from Chile was not Maddie Gregg trolling us, then that was a pretty cool drop-in. And I hope he was serious about needing to hear what he heard. Amy, Matt. Yeah, I didn't realize I had that. Oh, he's back. Hi, Rex. Or is it Maddie? Rex, if you are actually Rex from Chile, we appreciate you being here. Join us anytime. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Subscribe, Rex. Join us. We're here every Tuesday night. We're here every Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, doing different things. Jennifer Garcia, hello. Welcome. Thank you for taking this trip down memory lane from the Your Creative Journey podcast with us. We're back tomorrow night with some very special shows. Pierce your ear holes with the Pierces, Mike and Nicole, playing some music, an hour of music for us at 6:30, to be followed by our weekly improv show that's normally on Friday nights, The Suggestion Box, tomorrow night, Wednesday at 7:30. And following the Suggestion Box at 9 p.m. is Vodacity Game Night on Jackbox Games, featuring the cast of the Suggestion Box. That's going to be fun. And featuring all of you, too, that stick around and play the Jackbox games with them. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for being a part of this community, for being here tonight with us. We hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great night.